Episode 7 of the Coastal Feuds podcast. I'm your host, Braden Plord. Alongside me is Charlie Van Dyke and Arjun Pirani. We're excited to get into another week of sports, specifically college football and the NFL. This week in college football there were some pretty big games. We saw number 2 Ohio State go against number 3 Oregon, where Oregon ultimately came out on top 32 to 31, a large part thanks to Dan Lanning finding a loophole in the rulebook system, intentionally having 12 players out on the field, so whatever play Ohio State ran would not count. So he pretty much gave up 5 seconds for a 5 yard gain. So it was a really good coaching job at the end of the game, but it was a really costly decision from Ohio State to scramble and then slide and try and call a timeout near midfield. At that point, you just got to try and let it go. We talked about this a little bit kind of last week with the Tennessee quarterback Nico just running out of bounds on the last play of the game. Just when you're the quarterback, you got to give your guys a shot at the end zone. Just chuck it. I know it's a long ways away, but I think Will Howard had the arm strength to make it there. So ultimately, it was just better coaching at the end of the game from Dan Lanning.
Yeah, I was watching the game, the back half of it live, and I remember Will Howard, he snapped the ball, and there were 7 seconds left on the clock, which in college football and with Ohio State is enough for 2 plays to get off if you throw an incomplete pass or you get out of bounds. But instead, he faked going right. He comes back and he swoops into the middle, and at this point, there's like 3 seconds left, and he keeps on running, and then he dives with zeros on the clock. And you would think that this is a guy like Nico who made this type of play. Inexperienced, right? Young, maybe a red shirt. No, this guy is a graduate transfer from Kansas State. He graduated high school in, I think, 2018, 2019. This guy is far from inexperienced. He's had big game scenarios. He's played in Big 12 championships. He knows he had played that whole game knowing the implications. And now this was clutch time. This was the biggest drive of his life, and he sold it. And it's it was shocking to see, honestly. And Dan Lanning with that call, Braden, that was a small detail, but it was huge because there was a clip. I'm not sure if you were watching the game where Ryan Day is screaming, running down the sidelines, saying there's 12 men on the field. So he played right into Dan Lanning's trap. And just congratulations to the Oregon staff and the fantastic play calling. But a little bit of a side note, you do have to get some of the discipline up for if you're some of the Oregon players. One of the star wide receivers, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, he got ejected for spitting on a corner. And I don't know if it was just like a pass that was not catchable or if the corner batted it down. I don't know what it was. But the back half of the play, he's walking back and he does this right in front of the line judge and he just spits on him. Right? That's just a lack of discipline. This is the biggest game of your life, probably the biggest game of your season at this point. And to do that just shows a lack of character and it shows a lack of composure, honestly.
Yeah, Arjun, I do like that point. Just a complete lack of overall discipline and overall, poor quality of character from that Oregon wide receiver. But I think overall, as a game from the entirety of Oregon, it was actually a very strong game, both in the air and on the ground. With stats, Dylan Gabriel, I mean, he had an excellent game. He threw 23 out of 34 with 2 touchdowns. Um, I think their air game was great. I think Ohio State's secondary was just kind of unable to stop it. They didn't have any interceptions. They weren't able to really get a whole lot of pressure around Dylan Gabriel. So great work to Oregon's line. And then they also created a lot of good rushing lanes for Jordan James and the Oregon backfield just as a total. And I feel this is a great overall offensive game from Oregon. I mean, you'll obviously like to see him play a little bit better defense, but winning by 1 and winning by 40 is the same thing. And I feel like Oregon defense really stepped up when they needed to, especially during that last drive. You forced a little bit of confusion out of Will Howard and got the job done. That's really all you need.
And I
Yeah,
will say just one more thing. Jeremiah Smith, I'm pretty sure this game was pretty quiet. I don't think he had a crazy stat line.
I
You can
thought
correct me if I'm wrong. but I thought
Uh,
he was
I,
pretty much shut down early.
I mean, I would call it a quiet game. Stats, he had 100 yards and a touchdown. So I wouldn't call that quiet.
Well, then I'm thinking of someone else then. That
You
is
were
my
thinking of someone
bad.
else.
I'll shut my mouth then.
But I know that the Oregon senior wide receiver Tez Johnson, really in the first half, he had a really quiet game. I think he only had like one reception and a couple targets. But then the ending stat line, Charlie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he had like 10 receptions for almost 100 yards, I believe. And
Uh, Basically, yeah.
yeah, so he really stepped up, and we've seen a lot of stat lines like that. He's getting the ball consistently, and he's making big plays. This transfer from, I think it was Texas A&M,
Mhm.
Evan Stewart, he also had a really good game. And just the whole last drive of the game from Gabriel was just about as poetic as you can get. There was like 4 or 5 minutes left, ran down most of the clock. He really made a lot of good decisions, the right reads, really showed his age and all the maturity that he has as a quarterback. And how lucky is it that an Oregon program can go from the most experienced quarterback in college football to the next most experienced quarterback in college football, going from Bo Nix down to Dylan Gabriel. Now, the next game I want to touch on is something that we had a little bit of a debate over last week. Arjun's Penn State Nittany Lions took on the USC Trojans, with Penn State ultimately coming up on top in overtime, 33-30. I wasn't able to see any of the stats of the game, but it seemed like a really a nice game from Penn State offense.
First off, I would like to send my love to Tyler Warren and his family. I love you. I'll name my kids after you if you want. Um, you are our offense at this point when Nick Singleton can't run the ball. Um, this game, we were down 20-6 at half. We are a second half team. I've been stressing this all year. I've also been stressing that if we start slow, it's gonna bite us. And I was in the city with this game, celebrate my mom's 50th. Happy birthday, Mom. So I wasn't able to catch the game, but I was watching it and I saw small highlights on YouTube and Instagram and all of that. And it's just, oh man, it just leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Even though we came out with the win and the boys rallied, Penn State, I will say this is a positive. Penn State usually in those types of games where we're down and we start to come back and mount a little comeback, we usually fall short. So I am very proud of this team and I am very proud of this offense. Drew Allard does need to clean up the turnovers. He had 3 this game. 2 of them were like 2 of them can be put aside because one of them was a Hail Mary. And then another one he was hit while he was throwing. So he really had no control of where that ball was going. I think the boys just showed a tremendous amount of grit. And the pick by Jalen Reed at the end of the game, I love you. Kevin Winston Jr., our All American safety, is out for the year. So he really has to step up. So I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the boys. I'm proud of them on the road in a pretty hostile environment at the Coliseum, getting a dub, coming out in overtime, and finally finding a competent kicker.
Well, I guess I just want to open with frauds, frauds, frauds. USC, you are fraudulent. You are fraudulent. You can't beat Penn State at home. They start slow. Arjun has made this point consistently through like last week, through his entire season of Coastal Feuds. He's made this entire point of Penn State starts slow. If you know this, then maybe you take your award-winning offense or like Hollywood offense and you start scoring in the first half when they're not playing. If you can't do that, then you're clearly doing something wrong. Second thing, I just want to say who called it. Who called that Penn State would walk into the Coliseum and walk out with a W? And while Penn State did have to fight, they did have to grind to get back into this game. Again, back to Arjun's point of Penn State starts slow. But if they're able to show that grit through the rest of the season, then frankly, I see Penn State as a real contender. They only moved up 1 in the AP poll ranking, which is a completely valid take in my opinion. But overall, I think this Penn State is really a team to compete with this year. And again, I want to go back to Archie's point of Tyler Warren. Oh my, what a tight end this is. I love seeing a good, fun tight end. You don't see this a whole lot in college football anymore, I feel like. The last great tight end I can remember is like George Kittle for Iowa. Like, it's like, just such fun tight end play when when they're not running their ground and pound offense and they're giving the ball to Tyler Warren. I mean, he completed a pass. I like this is
Uh-huh.
just this is a fun Penn State team. Uh, but yeah, USC's fraudulent. Penn State, they're a great team, and there's not a whole lot else to take away from this game. You can't miss a kick in overtime. That's really all I gotta say.
And I will say one thing that I am disappointed with the boys about after the game. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the clip. Some of our defensive DBs brought a Penn State flag out, and we're gonna do a little Baker Mayfield and plant it at the center logo. Huge ups to James Franklin, showing some good Nittany Lions character and stopping them. But those boys, you got to get it together, man. We won in overtime on the road, 3.5 point favorites. I know it was still a win. I know you're happy that it was a gritty win, but that's not Penn State class. That's not Penn State character. That's not how you act. Act with sportsmanship. Just got to clean that up.
Um, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw on Twitter that Tyler Warren had like 19 touches this game, or just he was consistently getting the ball. I believe it was a program record for touches. So great game from Tyler Warren, and look in a couple years if Arjun's a dad and his son's name is Tyler Warren Pirani. So the next game I want to move on to is, I know you touched on George Kittle and Tight End University, and Tight End University just dropped a 40 piece on Washington. While Washington has had a little bit of a fall off, not actually a little bit of a very big fall off from last year to this year, almost like TCU. They lost a ton of players, their quarterback, just a ton of key offensive and defensive players, but Caleb Johnson. I know we talk about Ashton Jeanty so much, and we will a little bit later, but Caleb Johnson is this Iowa's offense, and that's pretty much how it always has been these past couple of years. We know what he was capable of a couple of years ago when he had a really, really good game. We knew about it, and then obviously it wasn't a prolific passing game for Caden McNamara or anything, but when you want to get the job done, you just got to feed Caleb Johnson, because he will provide 3 total touchdowns on the game. Iowa putting 40 points on, that's going to fuel my ego for the next couple weeks. So I'm glad to see it, but Washington, just not the best performance. Obviously, it's never going to be an easy task playing against Iowa defense, and Phil Parker always creating a tough defense, even if you don't have these top tier recruits that you're getting. So it's just a really, really good game from Iowa, and I really like to see it. And Charlie, I just want to jump back to your point about exciting tight ends. I think some exciting tight ends recently have been Brock Bowers, number one. It's awesome to see a guy that's even kind of considered undersized to do so well in the SEC. Kyle Pitts, when he was with Florida, that was something really special to watch. And then I could just name a couple Iowa tight ends like George Kittle, Sam Laporta, Noah Fant. Who else? TJ Hawkinson. Just keep them coming. Eric All. I hope that he continues to have a really good season for the Bengals. And then Luke Lachey. He's next up.
Who? I have no idea who that is.
Yeah.
Oh, you will in a couple of years.
Oh, I will. Oh, I
You
will.
Oh, you will.
Oh.
Do you think, did any of you guys ever hear of Sam Laporta 2 years ago?
No.
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Played against him.
yeah, because he lit you up. He's next up.
He had like 20 some yards.
Okay, that's also the one thing I hate about the Iowa offense, is that we always see these tight ends like go to the NFL and become like superstars, or like some of the best tight ends like George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, he's even up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at their stats at Iowa, and it's like, really? This is a dude that's like first round caliber? I mean, just to consider, George Kittle was a 5th round pick. And he's probably the best blend of pass blocking and pass catching and big plays in a tight end in the entire NFL. And then we also see TJ Hawkinson. He's done really well. So I just hate to see that Iowa tight ends don't get as much stats at Iowa than they do in the NFL. Next game, it's not
Oh,
really.
wait. I would like to touch on this Iowa Washington game just for a minute.
Go
I
ahead.
have my opinions. I know Washington is overall pretty a team that has taken quite the dive after visiting the national championship last year with Michael Penix, and they've had not exactly the best go of it since then. They lost their head coach to the head coaching job at Alabama, but that's understandable. You lost Michael Penix, uh, and so it's been pretty downhill amongst other things. However, they came out last week and beat ranked Michigan, and Michigan is still ranked coming into this week. And I believe even after this week, they are going into week 8. They are still a ranked team. Iowa delivers one of the best offensive performances I've seen from them in the past, honestly, 5 years. Like, I'm going to be real. Like, this is defense university. As long as it's tight end university, it's also defense university. Like, their over-unders last year were like 16 and a half points. They would it's just like you had Cooper DeJean just absolutely locking these people down, and an incredible secondary, an incredible line, and incredible linebackers, and no offense. Okay, you would win your game. Like it was not a punt. Like last year, that punt return was not a punt. Like you would get all your touchdowns off of special teams and defensive plays. Okay, that's all That's all the Iowa really could do. Now that they have a valid offense and a slightly less valid defense, I feel this Iowa team actually deserves to have a number in front of their name when playing on Saturday. I think that this is an overall great game for them to win, show their offensive strength, and limiting a Washington team to 16 points. That's pretty good in my book. So Iowa should be ranked, my opinion.
Well,
I absolutely agree with you, Charlie.
Okay, and Arjun doesn't.
well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a shout out to Cade McNamara, first passing touchdown since 2021. How do you do, big boy? Let's go. I think the last time he got a touchdown he was at Michigan.
He actually had two. He had two.
He had two.
He
I
had two.
Hats
I
off.
I don't really think that's true.
Yeah, I don't
Because
think. Yeah,
like
he said that
he tore his ACL at late into the season last year. So unless he didn't have a single passing touchdown last season, I'm not sure that's true. Well, actually, no, it is true. It's dead. No, excuse me, it's not true because I went to a game the first game against Utah State,
Ooh.
and then it was we still didn't win by a whole lot, but he had like two or three passing touchdowns. So that stat is not true. But just the thing with Iowa is that you take all these. Yeah. And so an interesting thing about Iowa is that recruiting wise, it's not always just about like how many stars you are. They actually care. So a thing that Iowa does recruiting wise is that they look at a lot of let's do a comparison. So if there is a 3-star defensive tackle compared to a 4-star defensive tackle, if the 3-star tackle does wrestling and is like good at wrestling, they prefer the 3-star over the 4-star. That's just how it is because they feel that Iowa, it's a huge wrestling state. There's a lot of really good teams. Southeast Polk, it's about 20 minutes away from where I live, and they are nationally ranked. They're like top 20. So they've year in and year out put up really good teams. And so like even if you see a lot of these defensive linemen, I mean, there's a clip of Tyler Linderbaum and Tristan Wirfs wrestling against each other in high school. And those guys are doing extremely well for their teams, their respective teams, the Ravens and the Bucks. So the thing is with Iowa is that you're finding talent from like all these different places. I mean, Tyler Linderbaum was a converted defensive lineman. Lucas Van Ness was a first-round pick as a bench warmer. Like he didn't even start at Iowa, and he was still a top 15 pick. We saw Cooper DeJean and Riley Moss in the NFL, and they're good. We see Riley Moss. He's had a superb start to the season. Shout out to Riley Moss. Love you, man. And then we still have really good players all around. I mean, we have a couple offensive linemen, and I think it's kind of funny. I think the only receiver that we have in the NFL right now is Amir Smith-Marset. So yeah, we're putting guys out defensively, and just wanted to do a little rant about Iowa because Arjun always has to talk about Penn State all the time. So it was my turn.
It was your turn.
Maybe.
When UCLA has a good football team, I'll do a rant. It's never
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
happen. So,
Yeah, we'll
Come,
mark that
Brandon,
up.
I do want to ask you a question. Or wait, Arjun, you have something to say? Or?
come March, we'll talk about the Bruins basketball team.
All right. Oh, I just got excited. Braden, you mentioned wrestling in Iowa. What's your opinion on the WWE and like how it's scripted?
Oh my god, man. Oh my god.
Is that do you consider that real wrestling or no?
Well, if it's scripted, it's not real wrestling.
Okay,
They
okay.
also like barely tackle each other. Have you seen like the behind the scenes of how they practice?
hmm
They like use physics.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they use physics. I just sounded
Yeah,
like an
no,
idiot
I
there.
What do you mean use physics?
like what
Yeah,
so
that that
what'll happen is that in some classes they have a TV and they'll show like the state tournament live. I was watching this one and this kid was going for his fourth state title in his fourth weight class. I want you to let that sit in. So as a freshman, he won the state championship at a lower weight. Then the next year he went up a weight, won that one. Next year, I think it was, I don't know, but he was changing weight classes. I'm not sure if he was increasing or
Quite the
decreasing.
bulk.
But yeah,
Quite
he's
the
going
bulk.
against this guy is a huge favorite. And then he's going against this one kid who's the friend of one of my friends. Puts him in this contorted position. I mean, he's in a scorpion with like a 180 twist and his arms are like different directions. So I know that stuff is not scripted. So I much prefer real wrestling over WWE wrestling. But back to football. So the last couple of things I want to touch on is Ashton Jeanty once again putting up a huge performance, over 200 yards with two total touchdowns, lifting this Boise State team in the rankings. I believe they're 16th now.
I think they're
Either
17.
they're just around top 15, and it's really in part of Ashton Jeanty and his Michael Myers stance in the background because he is a scary person to see on that field.
They're sixth?
No, okay, that's confusing. They're 15th. Yep,
Oh,
like my 15th. They're 15th.
yeah, I agree. I don't know how much more we could like I feel like I'm getting numb to Ashton JT's stats. You talked about it earlier, Brayden. You talked about how he only had what 200 yards and a touchdown. I feel like at this point I'm like, well, he did it again. I'd be more shocked if he had a bad game, honestly, at this point.
I think it's completely fair. I mean, I think a couple weeks ago I said this kid isn't a Heisman contender, and I don't know how much more I can apologize for saying that. If this kid, I'm starting to like get to the point where it's like if he keeps having these kinds of games and he doesn't win the Heisman, I'm gonna get kind of mad because like no matter what school you're playing, what school you're playing at, it doesn't matter. This kid is putting up stats that are frankly unbelievable. Like this kid will be playing on Sunday very soon. And Brandon, I think you brought up this point like last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. He skipped out on the NIL deals from other schools to stay at Boise State. And I love this kid. This kid is such like the underdog, the real scrap, this is true passion. This is the college football. I'm making a terrible point right now. I'm gonna edit this out. But again, Ashton Jeanty. I mean, if he doesn't win the Heisman, I'm gonna get very irate.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and the last person to win a Heisman, and that was a group of five team, was Roger Staubach in 63. Oh my
Go
God.
Navy.
Attaboy.
Speaking of
Something
Navy,
like
hold on. Both Army and Navy ranked?
23 and 25.
Yep,
Michigan is in between both of them at 24.
Right.
Who knew? Who knew?
Bro, I'm excited for the Armed Forces Bowl this week, man. Like this at the end of the season, like it's gonna be fun.
Army Navy National Championship would feed families. Tell me I'm wrong. Triple option, speed, pitch. Triple option, hang up, income, split, go, peek, pow. One pass play. They're gonna have the same amount of punts as pass plays.
Final stat line on the game: 6 pass attempts and 700 rushing yards between the two teams.
The pass attempts are fake field goals, fake punts. Maybe the quarterback accidentally throws it out of bounds as a fumble or something. I don't know. They'll count that as a pass attempt.
Nah, he like tries to pitch it, but he pitches it just a little bit too forward.
Exactly. He pitches it past the line of scrimmage. Forward pass. Oh, man, I would be so happy to see that.
All right. And the last point that I want to touch on before we move on to the NFL is that Alabama had a scare against South Carolina. South Carolina put up a pretty good showing. They kept things really close. It was never truly Alabama in this game. Jalen Miller, he threw a little bit of an early interception, so that did hurt him. But end of the game, I think this was a really underrated play. End of the game, it's a chuck to the end zone. Alabama defender comes up with the interception at like the 2-yard line, and his momentum carries him backwards into the end zone, and he's about to kneel, but his teammate Malachi Moore stops him. So then he has the return, and that would have tied the game if he knelt down. Now, because the final score was 25-27, so that was just another huge heads-up play, and just shows that how small details add up so much in the end. Like we saw with the Oregon Ohio State game we were just talking about earlier, the slide on the last play of the game, having 12 guys intentionally on the field, not kneeling after an interception and instead doing a return. So it's just really showing that when you get into the top 10, AP top 10, you're playing these really good teams, that every single detail matters. And we saw that with Vanderbilt upsetting Alabama last week. They had an extremely clean game, really efficient through the air, no sacks, no turnovers. So it's just showing that how small details just have extremely big impacts in these big games.
Yeah. Lenoris Sellers, the spectacle specimen, as I'm going to start calling him. He did have a pretty good game, I think. I know Ryan Williams was quiet. I think he only like 30 yards, which was definitely shocking. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch this game fully. I just saw bits and pieces of it, and I did see that Sellers just kind of had a lot of weight put on his shoulders. I know that he had to convert a lot of the third downs, and not a lot of people were helping him. I think they were 0-5 on third downs north of 5 yards in the first half. And then from the point I started watching, they were 5 for 5. So I don't really have a lot to add, but Lenora Sellers is a fun name to say, and he's fun to watch.
I think Alabama, especially after coming off a loss against Vanderbilt, they're definitely gonna be a little bit shaken. But if I was a Crimson Tide fan, I'd honestly begin to start to worry if we're forced to be able to just beat South Carolina and we're losing to Vanderbilt. Like, wow, I feel like this Vanderbilt team is actually starting to become a little bit better than we've seen in the past couple of years, and the South Carolina team is delivering a lot higher quality than seen in the last couple of years. I also feel like those are teams that should be relatively easy wins for the Crimson Tide. And now I feel like at this point we're going to have to start questioning this legitimacy of the Crimson Tide. Yeah, they got the dub, but I mean, this is a mental loss for that entire Alabama team. I feel like they're really starting to feel the effects of the Saban-less era. And geez, wait, who's the Washington head coach? Oh God, that came to
Kalen
Alabama. I'm
DeBoer.
sorry,
DeBoer? Kalen
DeBoer.
DeBoer.
Excuse me. Yes, this DeBoer era of Alabama. I feel like it's beginning to become a concern for these Crimson Tide fans.
And with that, talking about South Carolina, we're looking forward to this week's games. A big one for South Carolina as they travel to Oklahoma, take on the Oklahoma Sooners. So what are your guys' game picks for this game? Arjun, I hope I don't catch you too off guard, but I was hoping you'd start us off.
Yeah. I will say Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Sooners, I believe have one of the worst offenses in the SEC. I don't think there's really much to argue with if you look at the stats. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I know Jackson Arnold was benched. So I'm gonna stick with the spectacle specimen. That name will catch on, by the way. Mark my words, that name will catch on. I'm gonna pick them 34-27 in a high scoring game in Soonerville.
I feel like after the embarrassing loss to Texas, Oklahoma's going to have a heavy chip on their shoulder. I think after a close loss to Alabama, South Carolina's going to even have a heavier chip on their shoulder. I think South Carolina's going to really want to get a win against this Oklahoma team. I think it's going to be a gritty fight. I think it's going to be try and punch each other in the mouth kind of fight. Overall, it's going to be a fun game. I know that, despite both teams not being ranked. And I honestly think South Carolina is going to come out on top. I think they're just get that team looks like they just wanted a little bit more than Oklahoma. I mean, you lost 34-3 to Texas, and Texas is a good team, but I mean the Red River rivalry is like that's a game you got to put it all out there, and I feel like Oklahoma they just didn't look like they cared.
Yeah, I was also going to be picking South Carolina on this. We saw what Lenora Sellers is able to do, the spectacle specimen through the air and on the ground. I forgot who they were playing, but they were keeping it really close with a really good team. I can't put the name on it, but he got injured. I believe it was like halfway through the game. They had a true freshman against Georgia.
I'm pretty sure it was Georgia.
I can't exactly remember the game, but we just see the impact that Lenora Sellers has on the South Carolina team. That he was carrying this team against a victory. Once again, I can't put a pin on the game, but then once you had this freshman quarterback come in, we just saw just how much the offense declined in that game. And I think that after this showing against Texas, Oklahoma's just not looking good. They've been known to have good offenses in the past, but against Texas, they just did not look good at all. So I am going to take the Gamecocks on this one. Next up, against the team that Oklahoma just lost to, Georgia versus Texas, a huge SEC showdown of two very, very good teams, title contending teams. Arjun, who do you like?
Honestly, if you had asked me at the start of the season, I would have said Georgia. I would have. And I may just stick with Georgia. I'm not going to lie. I really do think this is a great game for Carson Beck. Get his name back on the Heisman list after the horrible loss to Alabama, the heartbreaking loss to Alabama. I do think Kirby Smart is going to rally the troops as long as nobody gets in a car. As long as nobody gets in a car, they're going to rally the troops and they're going to come into Austin, and it's going to be a gritty fight. It's going to be a gritty fight. I do think it's going to be a 41-31 game. Georgia, though. I do believe that.
Kirby Smart is a good coach for Georgia. He has led them to the promised land multiple times. Multiple times. But Quinn, again, I still don't know how to say it.
Ewers.
Is it Ewers or Ewers?
Ewers.
Ewers. I'm dyslexic. This isn't fair.
Every
Regardless.
episode.
Sorry?
I feel like every episode there's a new name that we cannot pronounce.
Yeah, every episode is just a new me. I just can't pronounce. I can't pronounce anything. Quinn Ewers. I feel like he is delivering so well for these Longhorns right now. I feel like Longhorns are delivering on every aspect of every game in each aspect of football. I keep saying aspects too much, and that's on me. This Texas team looks incredible. I don't see really any team stopping them anytime soon, unless they really have an off game against Georgia, which I believe they're going to Georgia in this one. So it could be. Oh wait, no, are they going to Georgia? Or are they staying in Austin?
Staying.
Staying in Austin.
Well, that makes it a little bit easier, but they have the crowd on their side. I feel like this is the number one overall team for a reason. I'm going with the Longhorns.
So I don't know if you guys looked at the stats for this Red River Showdown, but while it was a 34-3 win, Quinn Ewers didn't even get to 200 yards passing. And he's just coming off an injury. Arch Manning has started these last couple of games. And I think that it was a really good opportunity to reinsert himself back in the conversation of best quarterback, Heisman candidates, or just being that guy at Texas and not even throwing for 200 yards against an Oklahoma defense. I know it's his first week back, but that was a perfect opportunity to have a big game in your first game back. And I think going against Georgia is not going to be any easier. then going against Oklahoma. Georgia's defense has been good in the past. They're still good now. So I think they're still going to give them a tough time. I actually like Georgia in this matchup. We go with 35-28, one score game. So I think Georgia will get this dub against Texas. Next, we have another game in the SEC, Alabama versus Tennessee. Arjun, who do you like?
Rocky Top, baby. Let's go Bulls. I love this Tennessee team this year. Even though Nico did have a slip up at Arkansas, I still love the team. I love James Pierce. I love the offense. I love the skill positions around this whole team. I do. They're coming to Knoxville. Bama is correct.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I love this. They're probably gonna have the checkered in Neyland Stadium, the checkered crowd. Uh, it's a great atmosphere there. I believe that Tennessee will win this game.
This takes me back to Tennessee versus Alabama a couple years ago when Alabama again visited Knoxville. And I believe Alabama was the number one ranked team in the nation, and Tennessee was, I want to say, give or take, the 5 seed. And Tennessee had a lot of hype going into this game, and they pulled it out, I believe, on a game-winning field goal or something along the lines of that. And the student section, they took the goalpost, they threw them in the river, and it was overall just a fun game to watch, fun after party to watch, definitely. And I feel a similar sense coming on. I can feel another storm like that brewing in the air. It's going to come to Knoxville. Alabama's going to come to Knoxville, especially after being shaken in a close win against South Carolina. And Rocky Top has got it. Tennessee's taking this one. I realize I have to name a score. I'm going to say it's going to be around like 30-27. I think it's going to be close, but I think Tennessee's going to be able to pull this one out.
Oh shoot, I didn't give a score. My bad. I'm thinking it's going to be extremely defensive this game, so it's going to catch people off guard. 17-14 Bulls.
So I know Alabama did get this win against South Carolina. It was a little bit of a squeaker. Jalen Milroe, he's been off these past couple games, but I do think that he is going to reassert himself into the offense and be the superstar that he has been running the ball through the air. So I'm taking Georgia, or excuse me, I'm taking Alabama in this matchup against Tennessee. I know Tennessee, they have their really good edge rusher, but there isn't really a whole lot more on this Volunteer defense that I'm super afraid of, because we know about Alabama's playmakers like Ryan Williams and Jalen Milroe and what they can do when they get the opportunity for big plays. So I like Alabama in this matchup. And score prediction, I'm going to go 24-21. Now moving on to the Big Ten, we're going to jump to Michigan versus Illinois. Michigan's offense has not looked the same. They just haven't been the same team they were last season. And Illinois has looked really good this season. I believe they've come up the rankings. So this should be a really good Big Ten matchup. Arjun, who do you like?
Surprisingly enough, and as a Penn State fan, it pains me to say this, but I do like Michigan in this game. Playing Illinois, Illinois is at home. Illinois against Penn State, they couldn't stop the run. They know what we were doing every single down, and they still couldn't stop it. They didn't have the beefiest guys up front. I think the biggest defensive tackle they had was only like 270 pounds, which is not a lot when you think about defensive tackles. It's quite undersized. So I do think Donovan Edwards and Michigan is going to have a field day. Shoot, what is the Michigan's quarterback name?
Alex Orji.
No, the Jack.
Is Alex Orji not the Michigan quarterback? I'm sorry.
No,
he got
he's
benched.
no,
Oh, he
he's,
did?
yeah, he just comes in for like wildcat stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, but Donovan Edwards is going to have 150 plus rushing yards this game. Michigan is going to be a ground and pound, chew the clock. Illinois is going to have not that much time to work with. Final score, I'm thinking Michigan. Michigan's going to play some Big Ten football. It's going to be 21-10 Wolverines.
I do like your point of Michigan's run game is actually very, very good. I 100% agree. I think that not a whole lot's going to be able to stop this. Oh boy.
God bless you. Bang. All right.
Thank you. I even needed my mic to be courteous. excuse me, as I was saying, this blue defense, this blue run game looks pretty much unstoppable at this point. Granted, it has been stopped a couple of times, specifically by Washington, but I feel like as a team, you really have to prepare for the run game, and you have to really know what's coming on each play. And even if you do, you have to be able to put your tacklers in the way. You have to put your linebackers to be able to fill the gaps. I don't see Illinois really being able to stop this run game anytime soon, and I think I'm gonna have to go with Michigan taking the win on this one. I'll give it like it'll be low scoring. It'll be like 7-17.
I too am going to be taking Michigan in this matchup. Illinois' front line is just too undersized for Michigan's offensive line and their overall run game. We've seen in a couple games this season, Michigan, once they get the rock going, they're able to tote the ball, keep possession, shoot the clock, that they're a really good offense. And we haven't seen that a ton this year, but we've seen glimpses. I think we're going to see another glimpse against this Illinois team. Donovan Edwards and I believe his last name's Mullings, they're both going to have a field day. Alex Orji, he should be getting into the mix there too. So I do like Michigan. I'm going to go 24-10, just dominating on the ground with some Big Ten football. Final game that I want to go over is an ACC showdown between Miami and Louisville. Miami, a top-ranked team, but they've had quite a few scares in these past couple weeks. Still find a way to go on top. Sometimes it is a little bit controversial way that they come out on wins, but nonetheless, they're coming out with wins. In Louisville, they've been I haven't really watched a whole lot of Louisville football this season, so I can't really make a great judgment based on them. But Arjun, who do you have for your game pick?
It's Miami. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't hear a lot of noise coming from Louisville this year. At the beginning of the year, when when Clemson got embarrassed by Georgia, people were talking about, oh, Louisville is gonna represent the second team in the ACC championship. But other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of noise from them. I do think Cam Ward and his celebration is gonna take this game, and they're gonna win. Are they on the road?
I believe it is at Louisville. Yes.
They're going to win 31-17 on the road. Cam Ward's going to double down on his Heisman campaign. Going to keep it going. Going to toss for 3 touchdowns, maybe 4 if he's feeling it that day, maybe if he's in a rhythm. And I think this is going to be just a good game for Miami, and one that hopefully won't be so controversial.
I think this is. I am going to say Miami, but I'm saying it very, very cautiously because I do like Miami's ability to be able to keep on fighting. And actually, I think this Cal team might be very legitimate because in last week's game, Miami versus Cal, Miami had to go down within the last minute and just scrape out a victory against these Cal Bears. And Cal has been doing great things so far this season. But Cam Ward, he was able to lead his team down in the final moments, despite being down for a majority of the game, and be able to take a dub away from those Golden Bears. And while I don't like Cal at all, I was very excited to see this Cam Ward Miami team be able to grit out such a painstaking game for them. And I think that grit's going to play a big factor coming into this Louisville game. And even though that my reasoning for Alabama was that they're going to be shooken, I don't think this Miami team is going to be very shaken. I think they're going to be coming in with just the expectation of we have to lock in a lot sooner. We have to be able to focus up and cancel out all the noise when you're playing away and be able to come in and play the best game that you can. So Miami, let's go like 28-20.
I am also going to go with Miami on this one. I'm going to go 30 to 13. I think the defense is going to limit Louisville's offense quite a bit. And I think Cam Ward, like Arjun was saying earlier, I think he's going to have a really good game, have maybe 300 yards in the air, pair touchdowns, maybe even a trio of touchdowns. So I think this will be a good game for him, and I like Miami. But now moving on to the NFL, this week's games, there were some pretty high-scoring matchups. We saw the Lions get revenge for the controversial game against the Cowboys last season, and then we also saw the Bucs in an NFC South showdown, dropped 51 points on the Saints. So a pair of really high scoring games, and the Lions offense just was clicking on all cylinders, running the ball through the air. Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery all had really great games, and Cowboys, not a single touchdown, just horrific. They could not run the ball. I think they only had like not even 100 yards. I think they didn't even have 60. So it was a really bad performance. Dak took a lot of, I think he had 4 sacks, was pressured a lot in the game. He had 2 picks too. Cooper Rush, he came in. He also had a pick. So just not a good game at all from the Cowboys, and Arjun is definitely in pain. So Arjun, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, first off, Jerry Jones, happy birthday, buddy. Happy birthday. This is what you have. This is what happens when you let Mike Zimmer be your defensive coordinator. Let Dan Quinn walk. Let Kellen Moore walk. How are you gonna let Kellen Moore leave? This was like 2 years ago. But still, how are you gonna let Kellen Moore leave? How are we gonna hire Mike McCarthy to be our head coach? He got fired from Green Bay for not doing his job. People forget about that. He got fired from Green Bay for not doing his job. Dak Prescott, you had 3.22 fantasy points. CD Lamb is going to request a trade. He doesn't want to be there. We have an average running back height group of 5'5". I don't know what's going on. Defense can't do a thing. Micah Parsons is still out. He can't do a thing. Draymond Diggs, where are you? Deron Bland, where are you? We have Malik Hooker. You are nowhere to be found. He is gone. He exited the stadium. He in Houston at this point. He in free agency. Nobody wants to be here. Brandon Aubrey is going to request a trade. Our kicker going to request a trade. Nobody wants to play in Dallas. A Jerry Little Funland. Nobody likes it here. I hate it here. And in order to summarize my hatred for this team, I can't support this team every single year. There is a diss track that I just saw on Trap House Sports Instagram. If you want to know how I'm feeling, go listen to that. Dak, get your hairline fixed. I don't know what's happening. Get your mustache cut off. That thing is ugly. Go figure something out. Don't sell your house mid-season. I don't know what's going on. Jerry, sell the team. We do not want you here. Do not give it to your kids. Nobody wants you here. Oh my God, man. Oh. I gotta stop, man. I'm sorry. I'm going spirals. I can't support this team. We might put Zeke at center again. Who knows? Mike McCarthy might screw around and put, hey, put Zeke, if Zeke is at center, I'm gonna commit a heinous crime. I am telling you. If Zeke is if Zeke if if if, if, if Zeke goes at center again, I might just burn his jersey. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. The only thing we can do is commit is the easiest bet on the Cowboys is beating the Giants twice a year. People make the first round exit jokes. We might not even make it to the first round.
I really think we need to leave it at that. I'm not sure anything else needs to be said.
I was gonna say I had a response, but it's just not gonna be anything near that. Like, wow, that was incredible.
No, we just got to leave it there.
That was incredible.
Arjun, it's great for you to vent. Maybe call a therapist next time. But moving on. But I think what I want to talk about is the Bucks. 51 points, the highest point total in the NFL this season. Did really well. They had Rashad White out for this matchup. So your top running back is out. Baker Mayfield threw 3 picks, and you still dropped 51. So he had three picks, 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards, 4 picks.
No, 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns.
Yes. Excuse me. I guess I didn't remember it correctly. 4 touchdowns, 3 picks.
I look at stats all the time. It's not your fault.
Over 300 yards in the air, and the run game, Rashad White seemed to have just you didn't even feel his presence there at all, because there was none. Sean Tucker having 136 yards on the ground. Bucky Irving having almost, I think it was right around 80 yards, going over for 200 yards. And the Bucks team is known for not having a good rushing offense. So being able to put up this type of performance against the Saints defense that has been pretty solid over these past couple seasons in this type of fashion in a division game, I think it was just a huge, amazing showing from the Bucks, and just the Saints not being able to capitalize on big plays. Rashid Shaheed with a punt return touchdown. They had 3 picks. So that's 3 opportunities you had taken from the Bucks that you could have gone down and scored, but just ultimately was not enough in the end. So I think it was a really good job from the Bucks showing that you're able to bounce back from adversity and still come up with a huge win.
Yeah, honestly, I just want to start this out. Uh, my prayers are sent out to everybody impacted by Hurricane Milton in the Tampa Bay area. Y'all are strong. 2 hurricanes in 1 month is crazy. Um, but Tampa Bay tends to play really good when a natural disaster is happening. They beat the Eagles, and now they beat the Saints. The Saints did start the season 2-0, and now they're 2-4. So that's a crazy downhill skid. Sean Tucker, Syracuse Orange legend, did have a really good game. My fantasy team is hurting because Chris Olave decided to have a concussion. So prayers up to him. I didn't watch this game a whole lot. I was too busy losing my mind at the Cowboys. But yeah, great win for the Bucks. Honestly, they're gonna win the NFC. They're not gonna win the NFC South. They're gonna get second to Kirk Chains, but they're gonna be in the playoffs this year.
I think the biggest question is this the redemption arc of Baker Mayfield? Will he come back and win a Super Bowl with the Bucks? No. But I will give the Bucks defense. No.
Dreams, dreams,
No.
dreams.
But I do want to give a lot of credit to the Bucks defense. I feel like they actually played really well today. They were rattling Spencer Rattler. See what I did there? They forced him to throw 2 picks. They put him on the ground 5 times with 5 sacks, and they had 5 tackle for losses. I mean, I thought this was just a really great game by the Buccaneers. I mean, allowing 27 is kind of an issue, but I mean, the Saints put up all 27 points in 1 quarter. The other 3 quarters, they completely shut them out. I'm really intrigued. I actually didn't watch the game. I wonder what happened during that second quarter, which allowed the Saints to put up 27, which that's a lot. Like the Saints were winning going into halftime, and then coming into the second half, Saints didn't score again, and the Bucks offense just decided to start cooking. That's all I really have to say. I think great Buccaneers defense.
All right. The next couple games is we saw the Bears showdown against the Jaguars in London. In London. Jaguars dropped another game. They are definitely not looking great this season. Just a really quiet game from a lot of the Jaguars playmakers. Evan Ingram, he had a good game, but a costly fumble. Caleb Williams finally decided to have a breakout game the one day he plays my fantasy team. So that's pretty fantastic, isn't it? And Cole Kmet, probably one of the first players in NFL history to have 2 touchdowns and snap the extra points for both of them. So I thought that was pretty cool and just a really overall great showing from the Bears. So next up is we had a really great showdown against in the Maryland Eastern Seaboard area, Commanders versus the Ravens. So we know that there's been a lot of Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson comparisons, but Lamar Jackson is pretty much in his own world. It was a little bit of a not a fantastic game from him, but Derrick Henry just 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, showing that age does not affect him. He's been a bell cow since high school, since 8th grade, showing just you got to feed the man. I mean, just a really great game. Jaden Daniels, I didn't see the stats on him, but I still think that he had a pretty good game. But it was, not enough against the Ravens, but it was still a good showing from the Commanders, I think. So there's definitely a lot of positives that you can take from both sides in this game.
Yeah, I do remember that Derrick Henry had 135 some yards with a rushing touchdown, so he's still having the second best fantasy performance of a running back this year, second to Saquon Barkley. But Jaden, this is my question, and I'm not sure if this will spark a debate, but I think that Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC. Chris Carter agrees with me. And Stephen A. Smith.
Charlie, do you have something to
You
say?
look like you're like gonna.
Okay,
Let's pull up the
I
stats.
see your point. I see your point. I think he's making great plays. I do. I think there are Jalen Hurts.
No.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Are you
Jalen,
watching football
no.
this year?
Yes.
Are you watching football this year?
Yes.
Oh my
Jalen
lord.
Hurts is a better quarterback. I don't mean to be like the Stephen A. Smith, like make the crazy takes, but I don't.
You think that's not a crazy take?
This is crazier than
Jalen Hurts is a fullback with an arm.
That's a great analogy. Oh my god, that was fantastic.
That is
He's
great
a tush
analogy.
push.
I agree,
Dude,
but he's
he
got
had,
a
like-
great arm. Like I just don't think you can deny he has a great arm for a fullback.
Yeah, he's got a great arm. Do you know why? Because he has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Pro Bowl and All-Pro type receivers. Do you know who Jaden Daniels has? Terry McLaurin. That's it.
Jahan Dotson is on the Eagles now.
Yeah, and with the name one Commander's offensive lineman.
I can't name any offensive linemen, so that's on you.
Exactly, but there are memorable names on the Eagles offensive line. Jordan Mailata, he's a great offensive lineman.
didn't know
Lane
you were talking
Johnson,
about
Lane Johnson, he's one of the most consistent offensive linemen in the NFL.
Jason Kelce.
Kelsey
Like,
did
you know.
leave, but we also saw Landon Dickerson. He's a great offensive lineman, and Jalen Hurts just hasn't been having that same success
then
with
hear me out.
less
Maybe not Jalen
option,
Hurts.
with more
Maybe not Jalen
options
Hurts.
than
Maybe not-
Jalen Daniels.
Maybe not Jalen Hurts. Fine. I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this one.
Say Sam
5
Darnold. I
foot-
dare you.
The 5 foot absolute legend in Arizona, Kyler Murray.
Let's compare the stats. Hold on.
All right, let's bring him up. Let's bring him up. Here, I'll bring up Kyler Murray's stats. You bring up Jalen Daniels' stats.
All right.
Oh, great. Oh, the Commanders and the Cardinals played each other. This is great.
Oh my god, man. You are so cooked, man.
Okay, if Kyler Murray had a good receiving core around him, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great receiver or tight end. I'm actually not 100%. He plays receiver. Shut up. What?
I'm dyslexic. It's not fair.
It's not fair. Is it not Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, he's a wide receiver.
Shut up. Yeah, I'm dyslexic.
Oh my god, bro. Oh,
I'm gonna put that on a T-shirt and that's my excuse for everything.
That's got to be our first merch T-shirt. I'm dyslexic. It's not fair.
Charlie cannot pronounce. Hence, he is dyslexic.
I have a diagnosed. What do you want me to tell
Oh
you?
my god, bro.
Okay,
All
you
right.
were saying.
I think if you put Kyler Murray on a good team with a good receiving core, I think with like a much better receiving core, I think he would actually. I think we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think Kyler Murray, his ability to get out of the pocket and scramble. If there's not double XP weekend on, guess what? I think he's actually going to be a great quarterback.
Hold on.
Okay,
Charlie,
no.
Charlie, let me say something right now.
But just to
Jaden
go-
Daniels is much taller. He does everything better than Kyler Murray.
Okay, who cares about his height? And no, he doesn't. You're telling me he runs the ball better than Kyler Murray?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I will say Jane Daniels is sometimes stupid when he's running the ball. I mean, we saw that you could literally play Looney Tunes songs when he ran the ball and every time he got hit. But over time, that's going to develop more. And you're saying that if Kyler Murray, well, guess what? I bet you could say the same thing with Jane Daniels. And you could it's almost like an opposite for like some other quarterbacks. But if you compare like their situations, okay, if you look at the Cardinals offense, who do they have? Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison. Boom. Those are two good options. Michael Wilson, pretty underrated guy. He's a solid receiver too. James Conner, good running back. Their offensive line, pretty decent. Not terrible, but not fantastic. Did I say something?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm looking at stats. I'm comparing
Okay.
the pressure rates between the two.
Okay, and then if you also look at Jane Daniels, I mean, the Commanders' offensive line, not great. I mean, I'm not saying not bad, but also not great. Do you know who his top target is? Terry McLaurin. That's it. That's really
Fine.
about
All
it.
right, I'll die on this hill. All right, whatever.
You'll die on
I-
this hill. We'll get
I'm not
yeah.
gonna die. Well, yeah, I'm already dead. I'm already dead. But
Listen, you're
Yeah.
defending Bunker Hill, and Arjun and I have 17 waves of troops that are going to be taking your position pretty dang soon.
fine, in the NFC, fine, sure, in the NFC. I'm starting to realize the NFC doesn't have very many good
But now
quarterbacks.
here is my argument. Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback, but I
Brock
think
Purdy.
no. I'm on the Brock Purdy Brock Purdy is getting carried by his teammates. I'm on that boat. But that's a different argument to be made. I think Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the NFC.
Oh,
Because he's in the situation where he doesn't have a top target. So he's learning early on in his
Oh my
career
God.
that spreading the ball out. Like it's not just like, oh, Jaden Reed's covered. What do I do? You have Christian Watson, you have Romeo Doubs, you have Dontavian Wicks, you have Luke Musgrave, you have Tucker Kraft. He has so many options in the backfield that he's learning early in his career that you got to spread the ball out. And that's almost something detrimental that when you give a young quarterback just one perennial target, it's going to really focus him on just getting it to that one guy all the time, just focusing on one person. But Jordan Love does a great job spreading the ball out to all of the playmakers that the Packers have. They don't have a number one receiver, and that's really helping him. And we've also seen that last season. He went on he was different the back half of last season, and he did get injured, and it was the MCL sprain, but he's picking up right where he left off. He's having great games. I think Jordan Love's the best QB in the NFC.
I can see
Alright.
where you're coming from there. I do think Jaden Daniels is still number one, but Jordan Love, when you think of raw talent, he got to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for what, 2 years? That's a good amount of time to learn from someone, and he was able to learn the offense. Nothing's changed. Matt LaFleur.
Mhm.
Yes.
Matt
yes.
LaFleur is still the head coach. He's still in the same situation. I do think of raw talent, he is up there, but Jaden Daniels, just with the situation and everything, he's the best quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah, I lose. I don't know who's the best quarterback in the NFC. I lose. I'm done.
We've overwhelmed his forces,
Depleted.
Arjun.
Depleted.
Depleted
Once college
supplies.
basketball season comes around, we are like it's gonna be like I will be the British Empire. Like the sun will not set on my takes. That's you know what I mean. Everyone.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
I know what you're
Yeah, I get the historical reference. I see it.
Yeah,
I see it.
yeah.
I see that. I see that.
Okay. And so just for our last little segment, I just want to I have just a couple trivia options. I know that it's pretty even between you two. We've had
Let's not count this as an official trivia round. Okay, let's not count this as an official trivia round.
nothing official, but
1-1 after the greatest
just-
comeback of all time.
I have
All right, bud.
you both had the greatest comebacks of all time.
Whoa. Okay. If he was Bucks
Okay,
versus
no,
Lions.
you were 2016
I was 2016 Cavs,
2017 Cavs. You were Arjun was 28-3. Okay? You guys both made insane comebacks, but
Sure.
this is an exhibition round.
Actually, wait, can I be 28-3? I hit the Cavs.
Okay,
Oh my
sure.
God,
Whatever you
bro.
want. Okay. The first one. Well, actually this is an opinion. What was a better trade? The Herschel Walker trade or the Russell Wilson trade?
Oh my God, it's not even a question. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, you cannot be serious right now. Give me, give me. One of them won championships. Oh, I just gave it away.
Okay. Charlie, who do you think? Oh no, I said this was an opinion. There's no right answer.
Oh. Well, then it's Herschel Walker.
So
Charlie,
I
be
don't think it's
serious.
like reasonable to say that's like that Russell Wilson trade was good for the Broncos. Can we agree with
Yeah.
that?
No, that's what I think is the biggest part is that the Herschel Walker trade helped the Cowboys so much. But the
Yes.
Russell Wilson trade, dude, that put them 20 feet underground. The
Like,
amount
Russell
of
Wilson
dead
had
cap they're paying him, like draft picks, they're in a hole for a long time.
Russell Wilson had more bathrooms in his house than he did touchdown passes for like 98% of the year. I think he like
That's a
had like a
crazy
crazy game like
stat.
week 18 something like that. But like
That's a crazy stat. Oh my
That also
God.
speaks to how many bathrooms he has in his house.
Jesus. He's balling. Oh my God.
He's balling with no touchdowns.
Okay, so I think that's
Oh,
that's
the Herschel
the
Walker trade. If it wasn't obvious, I picked the Herschel Walker trade. Herschel Walker trade.
yeah,
Good
I
man.
do think it is the Herschel Walker trade too. But you could also just look at it like how detrimental it was to the Cowboys, or not the Cowboys, the Broncos, and then seeing the Seahawks make the playoffs after trading their franchise quarterback of multiple years. But now, actually, the trivia. I got a little bit ahead of myself there.
Okay, let's hear it.
Who are the only defensive players to win MVP? There's two of them.
Jesus.
Okay, and a one. Er,
There's two of them. They it's not recent.
not recent. Okay.
Not recent.
I know it's old.
What do we consider recent out of curiosity?
There only two guys have done it. The last one to do it was in the 80s.
Oh, well, I was not thinking correctly at all.
I was thinking 60s.
No. One was in the
Arjun,
70s.
what are you looking up?
I'm not.
Are you cheating right now, Arshan?
I'm typing. Oh
In
my!
an exhibition?
You can see the reflection. I'm on Zoom.
Okay, you don't.
And why did you move so close to your computer? What are you looking at?
I'm typing. Oh my God.
What are you typing? Oh, you're typing your answers?
Yes, in the chat.
My
Oh
bad,
my!
my
It's
bad,
so
my bad.
accusatory. My
I am
Lord.
accusatory. That's on me.
Jeez. Oh shoot.
Actually, I got no clue.
You don't want to
Shoot.
poll? You said there was two, right?
There was two. One was in the 70s, one was in the 80s.
Who would the 80s be?
Jeez, man, I got no clue.
I think it's going to
I feel
be
like-
fun. I think it's going to be funny when you guys figure out who it was.
Is it so obvious that I'm just looking over it?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh my God. then
Okay,
I'm screwed.
Charlie. Okay. Arjun has his answers locked in. Charlie, waiting on you, bud.
I'm so screwed.
I really have no. I really have no clue.
Shot in the dark.
All right. No answer, Charlie?
Richard Sherman,
Oh my God, bro.
Okay.
Ray
So-
Lewis.
So Arjun, your answer was Jack Ham and Night Train Lane. Well, Night Train Lane played in the 50s, so you were kind of off by a couple decades. Jack Ham, he did play in the 70s, but never got MVP. The Vikings, Alan Page,
Oh wait,
I should have gotten that, bro. Oh,
Lawrence, and Lawrence Taylor.
I'm sorry.
I hope that I hope I
Okay,
hope we can clip it of Arjun saying, "Who in the 80s? Who was like a good defender in the 80s?"
I'm such a bum.
So
Yeah,
no
that's
one
bad.
got that right. And now the next one. Since 2020, who has had the most rushing yards in a single game?
Oh, I know there was a stat. It was a couple years ago. I remember this.
Since
Stat.
2020,
I don't
Yes,
remember
if we're
any-
looking at 2020 to 2024, who had the most rushing yards in a single game? One game.
All right, here we go. I'm locking it in.
Okay.
I think it's
All right.
funny how Arjun's screen shakes every time he types.
I know. I don't. Ooh, I don't know if this is right.
Are
Yeah,
you
you
changing,
don't know if it's right. That's the point of trivia.
Arjun, are you changing your answer?
No, I changed it. I had one thing. and
Oh,
I
sorry.
changed it for
Okay, I thought.
another.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Both answers locked in.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
I swear to God, if it's wait, can I just say who I think it is?
Sure, go ahead.
I think it's Jonathan Taylor, but I put Naeem Hines.
Okay. So
Okay.
Charlie also said it was Jonathan Taylor.
I'm dyslexic. It's not fair.
And then Arjun, you said Naheem Hines, but you think it was Jonathan Taylor. The correct answer was Jonathan Taylor.
Dang.
253 yards in the last week of the season against the Jaguars, his rookie year.
Garbage time, baby.
So his rookie year, going for over 250 is impressive, but doing it your rookie year too was great.
Oh, that
So
hurts so
Arjun,
much.
Arjun, you said Naheem Hines, but you thought it was Jonathan Taylor, so I'd give you like half credit for it. But another week, another trivia, got it down. One of two. Charlie got it with Jonathan Taylor, and that's going to wrap up another episode on the Coastal Feuds podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Braden Plord. Alongside me, my co-stars, Charlie Van Dyke and Arjun Pirani. Make sure to follow us on social media, our Instagram and on our Twitter. Make sure to like, subscribe, spread the word to all your friends. We'd love to get this podcast as big as we possibly can. Make sure to tune in next week and to our other past episodes. See you next time.